that crowd. They know who it is. They know the name. The next generation, indeed.
Next gen. That's his nickname.
What's up, Steelers fans? Today's loss to the Browns was particularly disappointing, not just because of their injury situation with the quarterback, obviously, and both starting offensive tackles being out there. But this was the kind of game that the Steelers usually win, where it's late there, the one-score games. When it comes down to just, a field goal kicker, usually Chris Boswell is going to end up being the bigger guy, but it didn't come down to that today. Their kicker got a chance to be that guy, and, you hate to put that all on Kenny, but, the plays were there for him to make at the end, and he just seemed overmatched all day, and in the biggest moment when, the myth of Kenny Pickett is he's supposed to come alive in those moments, he shrank more than ever. Obviously, it got off to an inauspicious start with the first play of the game that the announcers thought should have been ruled a safety. He was clearly outside of the end zone when he turtled. He gave himself up in the field of play. I don't think you mark him down where Myles Garrett makes first contact. I think he gets that forward progress, and he's credited with the spot he's at when he gives himself up. But on the Steelers side of it, obviously it was a bad look for Dan Moore getting beat that quick and easy and clean. But Najee, he needs to read that play developing and jump to the most dangerous guy, not automatically go to the end man on the line of scrimmage. The next drive started with Kenny forcing a ball into George Pickens in between three defenders, and even though he completed that, and I guess you got to give him whatever credit's due for that, it seemed at that point like he was forcing things. And I think it was smart for Matt Canada at that point to kind of take the reins out of his hands momentarily to kind of give his heartbeat a chance to normalize, especially after the first drive when all that crazy nonsense was happening, 2 plays where they barely got out of their own end zone. So he decides to call the reverse to the right and then the swing pass to the left that the Browns, both those plays, seemed more than ready for. I got to give Canada a little bit of credit for those play calls there, even though the plays didn't end up being successful. He went kind of A to C with it. If I were playing this game in Madden, I would have been very tempted to go conservative with it and just hope that Najee or Jalen could find a crack and do something for me to help out the young quarterback, take some pressure off his shoulders. But Canada decided to get a little bit more creative with it. The only problem is Jim Schwartz over there on the other side calling the plays, and he's not a very A to B guy. He's going to take you A to C just as well. So there was 1 3rd and 1 where they put Jalen in as an H-back, and the second I saw that, I knew they were going to try to jet sweep him around the edge there. And he's pressing the edge, and I don't think he liked his odds of getting all the way around it, so he decides to cut it up. And he's so quick and aggressive with his cuts that creates so much power. So he's able to push the pile like that. And a couple plays later, you saw the stiff Armstrong, as the announcer called it. So great physicality from him, from maybe the smallest guy on the team, shortest guy at least. And the ensuing 3rd down play there, he also had a really nice job in pass protection. That was the play where the defender actually tried to go vertical to get over the protection there, and Jalen had a really good job of getting a hat on that hat. It was a tough task, and he was able to rise to the occasion, especially for a man of his size. And when I call him diminutive, I don't mean to be derogatory at all. I'm just trying to speak to the reality of the situation, that the physics of what we're trying to do in this field become harder when there's, the height disparity becomes more pronounced. So while I'm on the topic of height disparity, you saw the roughing the passer on Alex Highsmith. They're trying to teach guys to see what you hit, keep your head up, see where you hit. That leads to some incidental, glancing of the helmets. But if he lowers his head on that play, it's a penalty for lowering your head. I'm not saying that shouldn't be a penalty, because we don't need what happened to Ryan Shazier to happen ever again. But, what do you want a guy to do in that situation? He's damned if he does, and he's damned if he doesn't. The Steelers' pass rush admittedly wasn't good enough today against a situation that the deck was stacked for them to succeed, and they didn't. And I just wonder if any measure of that is because being made a little bit gun-shy by the early roughing call, the hair trigger, and the penalty flag there. The touchdown that Jalen Warren had on the second play of the second half, it was a beautiful example of the crack toss, but first they bluffed the jet sweep with Calvin Austin to the left to make the Browns respect that motion and kind of get them leaning that way. And then they come back the other way. They toss it out wide to Jalen. They get the play side tackle, Broderick Jones out, pulling out in front. Pat Freiermuth is crack blocking from the outside on Zadarius Smith, sealing that edge, coming in from the outside. That's what a crack block is, just from outside the formation coming on a guy who's trying to come from the inside of the formation, chasing a play to the outside. The actual term is crack back block, and that sounds pretty violent, and they can be, and that's why there are specific rules governing how you can and can't approach that situation. Farmuth executes it to perfection. Mason Cole is climbing from his center spot, trying to get a reach block, trying to get around that linebacker, and he ends up walling him off so he can't implicate himself into the play. At the beginning of the play, you see the Browns have 10 men in the picture on the broadcast, and as the play starts to develop, you see a shadow come running in, their single high safety, and he ends up taking a bad angle and gets caught up in the wash. And Jalen just gets on the edge, and there's nobody to catch him at that point because of how aggressive they were stacking the box. Usually that's winning math in the run game, but if you can find a crack and get past that first layer, you're going to find the second layer and the third are going to be much softer because of how all the resources they devote to that first layer there. But having said all that, I think his most impressive run of the day is the one where he threw 26 out of the club. At the end of the run there, he was actually contacted at the line of scrimmage on this play, so it's all yards after catch. He's getting close to the first down marker and he gets spun around, but he keeps his feet and gets around the edge. And after all that, being contacted by numerous defenders, he still has enough gas in the tank to finish with authority with the stiff arm to the. It was a legal stiff arm, got him in the chest, threw him out of there. I think the announcer's probably disappointed that he didn't save the stiff Armstrong comment for that occasion because that definitely would have gone viral if you see something like that happen, and then hear the guy go, Jalen Warren with the stiff Armstrong. What a weird moment that was, but you love it when he's talking about your guy. At least if he's talking about the other guy, it just rubs salt in the wound. Tristan Thompson, 17, had a pretty nice day too. I thought nobody's excited to see him on the field because it means Minka isn't out there, but he had a nice pass breakup on a third down play from a deep safety spot. He read it and broke on it, made a good break, and actually would have had the interception too. Had he put his hands out in front instead of trying to chest catch it. But, you can talk about an offensive guy dropping passes and ding him for that. But when it's a defensive guy, you just got to give him credit for the play he did make with his legs to get his hands in a position to make the play. You can't give him too much hate for dropping that interception there. But he also had a really nice play, a tackle for loss, where he met up with TJ in the backfield there. Having said that, I wouldn't mind if I don't see much of him going forward because it will mean that Minka is on my TV screen more. Shandon Sullivan had the interception. He was actually being interfered with on that play. The guy who was covering him actually started blocking too soon before the ball was there. He was able to extricate himself from that situation and then implicate himself into the tip ball. That fourth down sneak, I'm looking at the pile. I'm looking at what I'm sure is Kenny's knee. So you see his helmet get ripped off, but for the life of me, I cannot figure out what happened between that and him coming out the other side of the pile because I'm pretty sure that's his knee that's right there, and his knee's about to touch. Oh, but wait a minute. No, he's 5 yards downfield. Look at that beautiful golden head of his. So as much as I wanted to come into this saying that Kenny Pickett has a lot of questions to answer after his performance today, he may in truth be magic. He may be a magical person. And, honestly, if so, he'd have even more questions to answer. Because if you are magic, if you can teleport, why are we not better at football? Why are we not scoring more points? George Pickens had another fairly quiet game, but he's not making himself a distraction. It seems like he got a talking to since his tantrum a couple weeks ago. On the play where Joey Porter took his second penalty, he was a little bit frustrated with himself, coming off the field, being demonstrative with his hands, and you saw George Pickens on the sideline there just giving him a little bit of a talking to. Pickens is the last guy you'd expect to be lecturing kids on their composure, but I guess you love to see it. He had a Flying Grayson's type catch there, bailing Kenny out on one of those rollout plays to the right. You wonder if the Browns would have challenged that to see if he completed that catch had they had a challenge left at that point. This defense is so reliant on pressure, and when they're not getting it, they're two different defenses. And obviously the points total was low for the Browns today, but there were so many opportunities that they missed with drop passes. It honestly could have been a lot uglier than it was, and wouldn't that have been embarrassing to do that with a rookie and with the shape their offensive line was in? I'll have to take a closer look at the All-22 to see what the Browns are doing against TJ and Alex that held them so quiet today. But I'm sure the Steelers would be doing the same thing. So, disappointing ending notwithstanding, I think you have to give Matt Canada credit in this game for finding ways to make his run game work against a very good Browns front. And I think that Terrell Austin, I'm getting to the point with him where I'm honestly starting to think that the only way that he's back is if Mike Tomlin is too gun-shy to want to start over with two coordinators in the same season, assuming, obviously, that, as we all are at this point, that Canada won't be back. Personnel, specific packages that you might want to get on the field situationally, we can have those conversations, but it really has to start with the basic stuff, and that's get 11 men on the field. The fact that you failed to do that twice as the boss of the defense, as the CEO of the defense, is not a good look. And I realize Danny Smith almost did it once, and far be it, you'll never hear me criticize Danny Smith, but to make that very basic mistake, not once but twice, he really needs to start seeing some of the same scrutiny that Matt Cain is seeing.